And now we get to the fun part of our program. The one that you have often seen on YouTube, for those of you who indulge in surfing the internet. My scared staff has a microphone. And if you raise your hand, I will call upon you for questions, and I will try to answer them as best I possibly can. We'll start with you, sir, on the aisle back there.
Alan Kahn, I live in Monroe Township. I am a retired educator. I spent 40 years in the system to talk about, and it is time for a change. My question is not on education. My question is on the pension.
Okay.
Right now, there are many people who game the system, who in their last years of work, and not teachers, who build up a final salary that is way out of line, and we can't afford to pay those numbers based on what's been put in. Is your plan to some way change the system so that retirement is based on base salary only?
Yeah, here's what we've done. I'll tell you what we've done already and what we proposed to do 2 weeks ago. What we've done already is, first off, part-time politicians are out of the pension system forever. No part-time politicians can get pension. Second, we have changed the rules for new employees and how they accrue credits like that. And you can't have this last 3-year build-up where you have the small job and in the last 3 years you get the big salary and then the pension's off of that. We're extending that to something that's more manageable. 5 years is what we propose to extend that to. That's in the proposals we put forward last week. And to change police officers and firefighters from last year of salary, highest year of salary, to average of 3 years. So what we've done is, by expanding the length of time, it's going to make it much more difficult for folks to be able to game the system for 5 years rather than for 3 years for police officers and firefighters from highest year to highest 3 years, and make that based off of what they actually make, not things like accrued time. Also, we've said caps on sick leave payouts. Now, I have to tell you, I think sick time is when you're sick. And if you've accrued all this sick time over your career, I think instead of getting a big check, what you should do is go to church, get on your knees, and thank God for being healthy. So you said to cap sick time payouts at no more than $15,000. And so some of the things that you saw, like in my home county, in Morris County, where 3 police officers upon retirement collected over $900,000 in sick time payout, is ridiculous. And so we say cap it at $15,000 maximum. And what I'd like to move towards is a system like they have in the federal government, where federal employees don't get any pay for sick leave. What happens with federal employees is one of 2 things. If you retire with a lot of sick leave, you retire with a lot of sick leave. Or, while you're in the federal employ, if there is a fellow employee who has exhausted their sick time because they are chronically ill, you can donate your sick time to that person who needs it. Now that, to me, is the appropriate use of sick time. And it's showing compassion towards a fellow employee. That's the system I want to move towards in New Jersey. Blue shirt.
Well, thank you for taking on these tough issues. I appreciate it. And
Thank you.
as I watch the news coming out of Washington this year, blame put on previous administrations, things like that. Thank you for not doing that. This is
I do it every once in a while, to be honest, but I try not to.
But that's all we hear at times. You talked about other districts, in urban areas. Here in Old I think we have very good schools. As a parent, I would like the choice of sending my child to a good school or a great school. Is something going to happen in suburban districts as well as the urban districts?
Sure. One of the things that is proposed before the legislature right now that I wholeheartedly support is something called the Opportunity Scholarship Act. And this provides corporate tax credits to those who donate to an Opportunity Scholarship Fund that gives children the opportunity to apply for a scholarship that would allow them to go to a private school or a parochial school. That was their choice. We also have signed an interdistrict choice bill. So for the first time in New Jersey now, if you want to go to a school in another school district, if that school district is willing to be a receiving district, you can send your child to another school district, to a better school, if you want to. We signed that reform this year, so for the first time, New Jersey has interdistrict school choice. So we also want to enhance, and I'll be talking on Thursday about reforms we want to make to charter schools, an expansion of charter schools. In the past, New Jersey has not expanded charter schools, in my view, to the length it should, and we need to reform the law a little bit to allow there to be more flexibility and an influx of more private operators like KID and others who have had extraordinary results around the country, but because of some of the legal barriers we put up in New Jersey, they're more reluctant to come to New Jersey than they are to some other states. So the expansion of charter schools will help as well. None of those things by themselves is a silver bullet. And one of the things that you will hear from the education establishment to attack reforms is, oh, Governor Christie thinks charter schools are a panacea and a solution to everything. Oh, he wants to send people to charter schools and to private schools and to parochial schools because he doesn't like the public school system. Baloney. I think that this is something we have to have all options for. Every one of those things will be a contributor to a better overall educational system in New Jersey. So some people, like my wife and I, here's how it worked in my house, so you know. I told you before I was a public school student. I went to the Squire Towns Elementary School in Livingston, New Jersey, the Heritage Junior High School, and then graduated from Livingston High School, oh my God, in 1980. I just had my 30-year reunion. If all of you want to have a little therapy session with me, I can talk to you about what that was like. But I'm a graduate of the public schools. My wife grew up in Pennsylvania. She's number 9 of 10 children. Yeah, it means I have relatives everywhere. She's number 9 of 10 children, and she spent her entire career in parochial school, where her mom and dad decided to send them. So when we got married, we had this situation. I was a public school guy. She was a parochial school woman. My children go to parochial school. So for all those people out there who think Governor Christie always gets his way, no I don't. No I don't. That's the choice that we decided as parents to make, and we have the ability to pay for that choice. I don't think it should be based purely upon your ability to pay. Some people decide a parochial education is better for their children because they want those values that they teach at home to be reinforced from a religious perspective at school. That's a perfectly acceptable choice. We should give people the option to make that choice. Some people like private school education. We should give them the option to make that choice within reason. Some people are going to like the focus and the flexibility and the difference of a charter school. We should give them that choice. And some people are going to say, I love my neighborhood public school. My children can walk 3 blocks to get there. The teachers are really good. I like the principal and they're getting a great education. That choice should be available to them. Don't let people tell you that choice leads to a diminution of public education. Choice is an elevator of the entire educational system. The only reason they don't want choice is because we'll allow people to walk away from failure. And when people walk away from failure, then you have an excuse to close that failure, and the failed teachers lose their jobs and they lose members. That's what they're really concerned about. Don't want to kid you. Gentleman with the yellow shirt.
Jerry Dow, West Baltimore, New Jersey, Secretary of New Jersey Economics. 2 things. Number one, I want to thank you for signing the vote for the bill and the management bill. The other thing about the school education, is there anything, any part of the reform of reducing the 600+ school districts?
Here's my view on reducing school districts. We're now below 600. I'm not taking a bow for that, but we're below 600. All too often, what government has tried to do is to impose a solution from above, from Trenton, and say, these towns should consolidate, these school districts should consolidate. And I have to tell you the truth, and I think Rochelle will probably agree with this, Commissioner. I'm edgy about letting Trenton make those decisions from that many miles away. So here's what we've tried to do to encourage that kind of choice to be made. We now have a 2% hard property tax cap that comes into effect on January 1st. That is going to force And the only way, by the way, to receive that cap is not any longer like it used to be under the old system, to go to Trenton and get the local finance board, which was like a group of political cronies, to say, hey, go ahead, raise the property taxes, no problem. They granted 95% of the waivers that were asked for. They're out of that business now because of the legislation we passed in July. And now the only people who can approve a property tax increase higher than the cap are the voters. If your town, your school board wants to raise your taxes higher than a 2% increase, they got to put it on the ballot and you get to vote for it. What this is going to force now is for school districts and municipalities to have to make hard choices. They're going to have to share services. That's, I think, where it's going to start. They're going to have to share administrators. And in the new superintendent pay bill cap that we put into effect, that caps superintendent pay at no higher than the salary of the governor. Because, you know, I figure they have tough jobs as superintendent of schools, but it can't be tougher than this. Right? So I think like $175,000 within reason should be okay. In that bill, it also rewards them and allows them to make more money if they're superintendents for more than one district at a time. So you can share administrators in some of these smaller districts. What we're trying to do is by imposing fiscal discipline, making people make those hard choices at the local level where I think you can make them the best. I don't want some well-meaning employees in the Department of Education to decide that Woodbridge and Old Bridge should merge. I don't know if that's good or bad. I gotta tell you the truth, I never lived in either place. I don't know, and I'm sure the people in DOE don't know, and so why should we make the decision? But I am confident of this, that the mayor of Old Bridge and the mayor of Woodbridge, that the heads of the school boards in those towns will be in a much better position to make that decision. And if they have fiscal discipline imposed upon them, they may have to make some of those choices. So I think you're going to see shared services in the beginning, and then ultimately consolidation because of the fiscal discipline that we're placing for the very first time on municipalities and school boards and counties. And that's the way I hope we lead to a reduction.